What a way to end our week with a wonderful Colm Flynn, as always, joining us from strange parts of the world, or maybe just the one that he calls home, Rome, of course, in Italy, Vatican City specifically, in and around Europe. Lovely to see you, Colm. Now, we are on our way to the first international trip of the Pope. Where are you tonight?
Yeah, hey, from Ankara, the capital of Turkey. And by the way, Paul, I heard a few minutes ago you were talking about fancy teas and coffees. Well, look at this.
Oh.
This stuff, it's Turkish tea. It's like jet fuel.
Ripping.
I tell you, it's good stuff. I'm going to put it down there for a second and jump back into frame. This is a big day for Christians, for Catholics all over the world, and particularly all eyes are on Pope Leo XIV because it is his first international trip. Within just the last hour and a half, he has touched down here in Turkey after leaving the Vatican, and as we speak, he is in the presidential palace meeting President Erdogan. Now, this is big for a number of reasons, Paul. All eyes will be on the Pope to see, well, because it's his first international trip, how he does diplomatically when he's meeting world leaders. He will be here in Turkey for 4 days and then heading on to Lebanon. We know there's a lot of instability in the Middle East at the moment. So, you know, it'll be a test of him how he does politically. But the bigger story here is that for the past couple of years, Pope Francis wanted to come here to Turkey to celebrate the 1,700 years, yes, church history is long, the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea. This was a fundamental, foundational moment within the church where you had a lot of fractions and divisions, differencing opinions and points of views, but they all came together and they agreed on some major theological issues. So it's 1700 years since that. Pope Leo is going to be marking that, trying to encourage unity, trying to encourage peace. We have now another big split in the 11th century between the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox churches. So this would be a moment for him to come and say, look, we're all brothers and sisters, you know, at the fundamental level, despite our differences of opinions and religious beliefs. And he's going to be really preaching that message as he travels across Turkey and then Lebanon. But Paul, we spoke a few weeks ago when I was in Algeria about the challenges of being a Christian in Algeria. Many of those challenges the people here face, it's a tiny Christian population, 0.5%, that's 0.5% of the entire population. And some people, depending on who you ask, say that they are persecuted. Even though they say there's religious freedom and religious tolerance, they can't go out and preach the gospel, they can't practice their faith as freely. There may be legal obstacles to the church getting planning permission, getting visas. But then one of the priests I interviewed yesterday, who's been here for 25 years, he said, no, Colm, there is no persecution. In fact, when I go out and I tell someone I'm a priest, they're full of questions. And they say, hey, I want to visit the church. Now, then I asked him, but Father, do you wear your collar? And he said, no, we're not really allowed to wear our religious garments in public. It has to be maintained within the church. And then I followed up a question by saying, well, we've met some converts, people who were Muslim, you know, Turks living here, born in Turkey. They became Catholic. They told us their story, but never willing to go on camera and never willing to allow us to film them in church. And he said, yeah, this is very common because of the social persecution that they face, or the social stigmas. So this is going to be a fascinating time, Paul, as we follow Pope Leo as he travels through Turkey and then on to Lebanon. But it's all starting here, basically just within the last hour and a half as you join us.
But again, just he's such a historic figure, or trying to do historic things in his early days. Obviously, we remember when King Charles was there at the Sistine Chapel. Now, obviously, he's somebody who very much wants to use the papacy to get out and about and to grow some bridges. Is that stuff that the church tells you behind the scenes are what part of what he is trying to do?
Yeah, Paul, you should be a theologian because you're bang on the money. The word pontiff means bridge builder, the Latin for bridge builder. So him as the supreme pontiff, that is what he is trying to do. And within the church, this rift between East and West, and by the way, it's so iconic that we're here in Turkey. Although I'm in Ankara at the moment, I'll be flying to Istanbul later tonight, and so will the Pope. But Istanbul is known as a city where, Europe meets the East. East and West come together. So it's hugely symbolic that he will be going there and going to pray in the great, what they call the Blue Mosque. He'll also be meeting the ecumenical patriarch. He is kind of, if you wanted to say, like the Pope of the Eastern Orthodox churches. He's their spiritual leader. They have 300 million members in those Orthodox churches. So for the Pope to be meeting him in this image that they know will be spread on television, online, all over the world, they are hoping that in a part of the world where people are torn apart by fighting, by war, by bitter divisions, going back thousands of years, even in a small way, it will go a long way. Now, it's interesting to say, actually, Paul, I've covered a lot of these papal journeys, and sometimes some countries he goes to, you have the streets thronged with people. When Pope Leo arrived here within the past hour, no crowds. I mean, none. No people out to greet him apart from the officials at the airport. His motorcade went through the streets. No people lining the streets because there are no Christians here in Ankara. The small population are in Istanbul. So this will be a different type of trip without the fanfare. But it's the underlying message, I say, that he's trying to transmit, which we'll have to see. Time will tell. Will it have some kind of lasting effect?
Good man. Thank you, Colm. Enjoy your time. Enjoy the tea. And if the tea makes you stay up all night, then enjoy the recovery. Thank you, mate. All the best. Have a good time in Turkey.